Now it's time for Open House, sponsored by Pyramid Heating and Cooling.
Hey guys, we're down here in Tualatin, Oregon at Sawstop with Dr. Steve Gass. Thanks for having us down, man.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for being here.
I wanted to talk about Sawstop because this is probably one of the most important tools in my belief out there, because table saws are so inherently dangerous, and I've got so many friends out there that have been hurt by them. Luckily, I haven't been, but let's talk about those today.
Yeah, absolutely.
What got you into creating, the safe table saw?
Well, I've been a woodworker my whole life, since I was a little kid in my dad's shop. One of the things you always worry about as a woodworker is the table saw, because it's the most dangerous tool in the shop. For the longest time, there was just nothing you could do about it. You kind of took your chances when you used a saw. You tried to be careful, but all too many people, even trying to be careful, end up having an accident and suffering life-changing injuries. And I was out in my shop one day and I looked over at my table saw, and the idea kind of came to me, sort of serendipity. Wow. I wonder if you could stop that blade fast enough if you ran your hand into it that you wouldn't get a serious injury. There's
a lot of physics in this, because there is so much energy in a blade, so much so, of course, it likes to drag your hand in if you don't use it carefully. That had to have been quite the challenge to develop that.
It was, and one of the things that, the first thing I did was actually just, you mentioned the physics, was kind of to calculate the physics of it. Ask myself, was this even going to be possible? Would it take 1,000,000 pounds of force to stop the blade fast enough? And so I did the calculations, and it turned out it was reasonable. It was like 1,000 pounds you needed to apply at the edge of the blade, and I thought, I bet I can do that. And so I then got a used Craftsman table saw out of the classified ads back when they still had those.
Yep.
And about a month later, I had a working prototype.
Wow, that's quick.
Yeah, one of the neat things about the technology is, at least at the basic level, it's really very simple. It's sort of a high school physics experiment almost. It's like a touch lamp and a spring and a fuse wire, and it's all very simple pieces that kind of come together to make the function.
Man, that is great. And now you've got saws for just about everybody out there, from huge machines that are used in very large, industrial woodworking stuff, to job site saws.
That's right. It was one of the things that really weighed on us, was to give people that option. When people would come to us and say, hey, could you make a smaller saw so I could have it for my installers out on the job site? It's like, well, I didn't have one yet, and it takes us time. We were a small company and growing. But it's great now to have finally sort of achieved that, where we have kind of the full spectrum from the smallest table saws to the largest.
Yeah, that's great. And it all uses kind of the same technology, though.
It does. They all use kind of the same brake cartridge that stops the blade and has all the smarts built into it.
Yeah, are there any limitations to this when you're using it? I know that when I use mine, that wet wood is something that can be a problem.
Yeah, if you have extremely wet wood, you might want to use it in bypass mode. It has a mode for if you want to cut conductive material. So if you have an aluminum foil material, for instance, insulation, sometimes that you'd cut on a table saw, you'd need to use the bypass mode. But it has that so that if you're cutting something like that, you can just turn it off for one operation.
Yeah, that way you're not ruining it in a purely a safe matter just because it's conducting, and that's really how that works. That's that touch lamp technology you were talking about.
Exactly, yeah. It's looking at your body's conductivity, and that because you're salty and wet and sort of big, you're able to absorb the electrical signal that we put on the blade, and the voltage drops, and the cartridge watches for that change. When it sees that drop that's characteristic of a human touching the blade, it then triggers the brake that stops it in just a few thousandths of a second.
Man, that is fast. That seems like one of the fastest things out there when you're talking thousandths of a second, compared to an airbag in a car or other safety devices.
Yeah, it's probably 10 times faster than an airbag.
Wow.
When we do the demonstrations, one of the really fun things about it is you'll have the blade, making all this noise, and it's 3 inches above the table, and as soon as the hot dog hits the blade, it just vanishes. You can be staring at it as hard as you can, and as a human, you can't see. It just is gone. Sometimes when I would do demonstrations at a trade show, I, as kind of a joke, I'd look up that it had gone up instead of down, and that sometimes got people's attention.
That's pretty funny. And I mean, it's such a great thing for people out there, any wood shop, contractors, and even homeowners to have, because that could save a big accident.
Yeah, the cost of table saw injuries is estimated by the Consumer Product Safety Commission to be 10 times the purchase price of the saws, the average saw.
Wow.
So when you buy a saw for, $500, you should probably put $5,000 away to pay for the injuries that on average that saw is going to cause. It's rather remarkable.
Wow. So if people are going to find out more about Sawstop, where do they go?
Well, the best place is probably the website, sawstop.com, and then of course our dealers to lay hands on them and sort of get the look and feel.
Well, thanks for having us out today, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
All right, guys, Sawstop, check it out. Should be in every shop out there. It's a heck of a safe way to cut wood.